Summary of Perfume by Patrick Süskind. Grenouille is born in a Paris market in July 1738 to a young fisherman. The heat and smell make Grenouille's mother pass out right after giving birth, which draws a lot of people. When she wakes up, she leaves her baby behind. Someone finds the baby, and the mother is caught, put on trial, and beheaded. Many wet nurses come and go with Grenouille, and all of them tell him he's really wanting milk. Jean-Baptiste is his last wet nurse. She gives him back to Father Terrier at the convent of St. Mary a few weeks after taking him in, saying that Grenouille is possessed by the devil because he can't smell. Father Terrier tries to get Jean-Baptiste to keep the baby by paying her more money, but she gives in the end. Father Terrier is scared when Grenouille wakes up and sniffs the air in a scary way. He takes Grenouille right to Madame Gallard, who runs a home for children. As a child, Madame Gallard was hit in the face with a gun. Because of this, she can't smell or feel anything. She doesn't know that Grenouille doesn't smell and doesn't think he will show feeling, which is fine with Grenouille. His friends try to kill him, but in the end they give up. Grenouille keeps track of every smell he smells as he grows. He doesn't think words can fully describe his sense of smell, and he never fully understands ideas like right and wrong or goodness. When Grenouille is 8 years old, the convent stops paying for his care, so Madame Gallard sells him to a tanner named Grimel. Grimel treats Grenouille like a pet and puts him to sleep in a closet at night. When Grenouille gets anthrax and lives, he becomes a valuable worker because he can't get it again. He is then given a bed and a blanket. At age 12, Grimel starts giving Grenouille a free evening once a week. Grenouille uses the chance to walk around Paris and follow smells. It makes him feel free for the first time. Paris lights up the sky with fireworks one night to honor the king, and Grenouille smells something that makes him feel high. He finds it in a garden where a young teenage girl is pitting plums on the Rue de Marais. He chokes her, rips off her dress, and sleeps with her until she smells bad. Later that night, as he lies in bed, he starts to sort his smells into good and bad groups. An old perfumer named Giuseppe Baldini is seeing his business go bad. His foe, Policier, has given him the job of adorning account skins with the perfume Amour and Psyche. He doesn't want to buy the perfume, instead, he wants to copy it. It takes Baldini 2 hours of trying to figure out the different ingredients. He gives up and chooses to sell his business and move to Messina. The servant bell then rings, and when he opens the door, Grenouille is there with the skins from Grimel. Grenouille has never been to a perfumer's shop before, so he asks Baldini to hire him as a trainee. Baldini laughs at the idea, but Grenouille tells him he can make Amour and Psyche. Grenouille is given the chance to mix the perfume by Baldini. Even though Baldini doesn't like Grenouille's style, he can smell Amour and Psyche when he finally tells Grenouille to stop. Being amazed, Baldini lets Grenouille improve the perfume. As Grenouille goes, Baldini tells him he'll think about taking on Grenouille. The next day, Baldini buys Grimel's service for Grenouille. He enjoys what he thinks is the best deal of his life by getting very drunk. He falls into the Seine while drunk and drowns. Grenouille gets to work making Baldini a bunch of great perfumes, and Baldini's business grows. Baldini shows Grenouille how to use the alembic to distill spices and herbs. Once Grenouille understands how it works, Baldini lets him extract other things. When Grenouille tries to use distillation to make the smell of doorknobs or water, he gets very sick and is told he has syphilitic measles, which is fatal. Baldini is upset because he wants to grow his business and needs Grenouille to help him do it. Finally, Grenouille asks Baldini about other ways to get sense out of things. Baldini says that besides distillation, there are several other better ways to do things, and that the town of Grasse is the center of these methods. Then, amazingly, Grenouille gets better. After 3 years, Baldini's perfumes have made him famous all over the world, and he gives Grenouille journeyman's papers and lets him leave his service. He gets Grenouille to promise that he will never make his perfumes again and that he will never go back to Paris again. That night, Baldini and his wife die when the shop they are working in, which is on a bridge, falls into the river. As Grenouille moves closer to Grasse, he enjoys the cleaner air outside the city more and more, and he becomes more aware of the smell of people. He starts to travel alone at night in an effort to find peace and ends up at a volcano in the most remote part of France. Grenouille chooses to stay when he learns he is all by himself. He finds a cave with a small stream of water and enough space to sleep. He stays there for 7 years. Daydreaming all day in his inner castle, he plants pleasant smells during the day, and at night, he breathes in the girl's scent from the Rue de Marais. One day, Grenouille has a bad dream in which an overpowering fog of his own smell tries to choke him, and he wakes up realizing he doesn't have any scent. Worried and disturbed, Grenouille sets out to find out if he really doesn't have a smell. He leaves the mountain when he realizes he has no smell. In a small village, Grenouille meets people. The Marquis de la Télé d'Espinasse, who came up with the idea of fluidium vitale/lead ale, hears about his story that he was taken by thieves and locked up in a cave. According to the idea, gases in the earth are harmful, but gases from places where the earth has been taken away are helpful. It turns out that Grenouille is a great person to study, so the Marquis gives him a lesson, makes him eat foods that clean him up for a week, and buys him new clothes. He thinks that Grenouille looks very normal. One day, the Marquis tries to scent him with violet perfume. Grenouille fakes passing out and tells the Marquis that the perfume comes from the earth and is dangerous. The Lord talks to a perfumer in the area, and the perfumer lets Grenouille use his shop to make a new perfume. The cologne Grenouille makes smells like a fake person. He decides to try it in town, where people treat him like a normal person now that he can smell. Grenouille thinks he is very smart. The next talk by the Marquis is a hit, and Grenouille's perfume makes people feel sorry for him. After a few weeks, Grenouille leaves the city and goes to Grasse. As he walks around the city, he smells something that smells a lot like the girl from the Rue de Marais. Grenouille decides that he has to have this scent. He gets a job working for Madame Arnulfi and her helper Drouot. In their shop, he learns how to use animal fat to get scents from flowers. During the winter, Grenouille starts to play around with different ideas and makes himself a few perfumes that smell like people. He can also make a perfume that smells like a brass doorknob. He moves on to animals, but he has to kill them first to get what he wants. Lastly, he works with people by putting small pieces of oily cloth in public places. These pieces of cloth soak up people's smell and make perfume. One night, Grenouille dreams about the girl in the garden and her scent. He has the unpleasant thought that even if he does have her scent, it will wear off soon. He decides that if he wants it to go further, he needs to mix her smell with other things to make a perfume. During that spring and summer, 24 pretty young girls in Grasse are killed by being hit in the head, having their clothes taken off, and having their hair cut off. The town goes crazy with fear when people find out that the girls are virgins. As soon as the town's priest kicks out the unknown killer, the killings stop. The second consul of Grasse, Antoine Riquez, is a widower and doesn't believe that the peace will last. He also doesn't believe the reports that the killer has moved on to nearby Grenoble. He has a beautiful daughter named Laure who just turned 16. After having a nightmare in which the serial killer kills Laure, Riquez realizes that the killer must still be after her. Right away, he makes plans to sneak Laure out of the city and marry her off, since she won't be as vulnerable since she's already been married. That morning, Riquez and Laure leave early. Grenouille, on the other hand, was getting ready to steal Laure's smell that night. But when he goes outside, he can't smell her, which makes him freak out. In passing, Drouot says that Riquez and Laure have gone to Grenoble. Grenouille gets his things together and goes after the fugitives. After getting to La Napoule, he goes to an inn where Riquez and Laure are already asleep. He talks the landlord into letting him sleep in the barn. That night, Grenouille sneaks in through Laure's window, hits her with his club, and wraps her in his oily cloth to make her smell bad. He just sits there and looks at her all day. When dawn comes, he unfolds her, puts the towel with her scent oil inside, and leaves. Later that morning, Antoine Riquez finds her body. After a few days, Grenouille is caught. Inside Grenouille's cabin, the police find the hair and clothes of the 25 victims. They put this evidence on show in the church square. His trial goes quickly, and he is given the death penalty. The parade grounds are ready for the execution, and people are getting ready as if it were a holiday. Everybody comes to the grounds of the execution in large groups on the day of the execution. Grenouille is brought in a carriage to keep him safe from the crowd. As Grenouille gets out of the coach, he is wearing the perfume he made from the 25 virgins he killed. Everyone in the crowd is sure that Grenouille is not a killer. After that, Grenouille's perfume sets off an orgy. Grenouille is thrilled and happy at first, but soon he starts to dislike people and passes out. Grenouille is run to by Antoine Riquez. After a while, Grenouille wakes up in Laur's bed, where Riquez has asked him to be his son. The verdict was overturned, and Drouot is now being held and put to death for the killings. Grenouille goes back to Paris because he feels like he wants to die. When he gets there after midnight, he goes to the Cimetière des Innocents, where homeless people hang out. After he joins the group, he uses his last bottle of perfume to cover himself. They all rush at Grenouille and attack him, ripping his body apart and eating it. Everyone in the group feels as though they have finally done something out of love, despite the fact that they are embarrassed with themselves after Grenouille leaves.
About the author. Süskind was born in 1949. He went to a small town in Bavaria for school and then went on to study medieval and contemporary history at the University of Munich and in Aix-en-Provence, France. However, he was never able to complete his education. He later moved to Paris, and his parents helped him out financially. He wrote scripts and short stories there, but none of them were published. Süskind played the double bass, which came out in 1981 and was played more than 500 times during the 1984-85 theater season, was a big hit. His most famous book is called Perfume, and it was on the top list of a major German magazine for 9 years. Few things are known about Süskind because he lives alone in Munich and Montpellier, France, and doesn't want to be interviewed or photographed.
Hope we summarized it fully and you liked it. Please hit the like button and subscribe to our channel so that we are motivated to create more videos.